We've just begun the Stellar Crown format, and first off, thank you to everybody who's enjoyed my Stellar Crown content so far, but I do want to jump ahead a little bit, at least ahead for us. Over in Japan, they already have this deck, and it's starting to make some waves, so I wanted to put this on your radar right now so that you're ready for it when this card presumably hits in November. I'm Jet from inthirdperson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about the best deck that's only in Japan for now. At the end of August, Japan got these two exclusive decks. One of them is Sylveon EX, and the other one is Ceruledge EX. Now, Sylveon EX hasn't seen a lot of play based on my research of the Japanese metagame, but Ceruledge is starting to pick up a bunch of momentum, and not necessarily because the deck, like the pre-constructed deck that you get, is particularly good, but the Ceruledge EX has a lot of potential. So let's go and dive into what this thing does. Its first attack for 1 fire energy, Abyssal Flame, does 30 damage, plus this attack does 20 more damage for each energy card in your discard pile. So if you've got a deck with a ton of energy and you can dump a whole bunch, this can do a ridiculous amount of damage, potentially getting you into one-hit KO territory on anything in the game. And its second attack for 1 fire psychic and metal energy, you do 280 damage and you discard all energy from this Pokemon. Maybe not the worst attack per se. 280 is a really good number, knocking out V-Star Pokemon, knocking out all basic EXs and basic Vs, and a couple of stage 1 EXs as well, but having to discard all the energy does kind of suck. I think that there are ways of being able to loop this attack, but for the most part right now, people are playing it just for that Abyssal Flame attack. In the Japanese tier lists, we see it towards the bottom of the competitive list. Sorry to interrupt my own video here, but at the time I started editing, Pokeka Books dropped the latest tier list, and Ceruledge actually moved up to the A tier along the likes of along with up there with Lugia, Gardevoir, Regidrago, and Roaring Moon. So all the stuff I say about this being like in the B tier later on in the video, scrap that, and all the parts where I say like, hey, this has room to grow, it's growing right now. And we don't know what the ceiling for this deck is yet, but it seems to be a deck on the rise. All right, let's get back to it. Here's a look at the top 16 metagame. So looking at all of the Japanese City League events and taking stock on what decks make the top 16, we do see that Ceruledge EX does have a bit of share here at 4.7%. But again, I think this is something that's going to rise, especially since one of the lists we're going to look at recently won an event. But we're going to start things with this example list, which got second place. So it was really close to getting that win. And we're going to start with this one because I think this is the most vanilla list of the bunch. And I'm not going to go through every single card here, talk about the general game plan, and kind of highlight some of the newer cards in this set. So we've got our Ceruledge EX, which is our only attacker in the deck, and we have a lot of cards that can help us dig through our deck and throw a bunch of energy in the discard pile, including Squawkabilly EX. We've got the Radiant Greninja. We've got Lumineon here, which can help us grab a supporter like a Professor's Research or a Carmine, which you can actually play on turn 1 to just dump a bunch of energy into your discard pile, or dump whatever cards you have in hand. Lots of ways of getting energy in hand, such as Earthen Vessel, and ways of discarding it, your Research, your Carmine, Pokestop here as well. And one card right here, which is a new A-Spec, which we don't have yet, that is coming in Surging Sparks, and this is Perfect Mixer, which lets you search your deck for up to 5 cards and discard them, then shuffle your deck. And that's basically a 150 damage boost to your attack just by dumping 5 energy cards, which is fantastic. And I should note here that we do have 4 jet energies, which can help against some stall strategies and stuff like that, but also dumping jet energy as well counts towards your attack cost, or like the damage that you are doing, because it's not fire energy, it's just energy. So giving you some ways of getting out of some trapping strategies while also adding to your damage output. So some really cool stuff happening in this sort of vanilla take on the deck. This second example is the first one to win a Japanese City League event. And some of the big changes here, we do have that rigid band to take 30 less damage, giving you an effective HP of 300 on the Ceruledge, helping you tank a hit. We do see Legacy Energy here as the ace spec. So instead of worrying as much about discarding energy with our ace spec, we're using that to drop one less prize and keep you in the game a little longer, which I don't necessarily hate here. We see a lot of discarding cards such as Carmine and Professor's Research, lots of ways of getting energy with that Earthen Vessel, and we also have the inclusion of Zamazenta V, which is a card we don't see, well, we haven't really seen much at all in competitive play, but it does work pretty well in the context of this deck, where it's Regal Stance ability. Once during your turn, you may discard your hand and draw 5 cards. If you use this ability, your turn ends. So sort of like a variation of Rotom V, which lets you draw more cards. This lets you discard your hand, draw 5, especially for the purposes of dumping more energy into the discard pile so your follow-up attack is even stronger. This third example came in 5th place, and this one, a couple of minor tweaks here. We see the Pheasantipity EX, which is here to draw cards with that Flip the Script ability. Let me just double check. It also appeared on the second list as well, but we'll talk about it here. After your opponent KOs one of your Pokemon, you get to draw an extra 3 cards. We are running a different ace spec here with the Prime Catcher. Prime Catcher is just such a good ace spec that it makes any deck better. And this is, helps you optimize which Pokemon you are knocking out. We also have 3 copies of Pokemon Catcher, again, getting very aggressive with the Gusting, because this is an archetype where its damage output could scale wildly depending on how much energy you have in the discard pile. So being able to have options to cherry pick different targets is a plus. So 5 Gusting options in total, and yes, 3 are on a coin flip, but giving you some options for what you can potentially KO based on what targets are on the board and what you would want to hit at any given time. And again, still tons of discarding synergy here with your Squawkabilly, Radiant Greninja, Carmine, and Professor's Research. This fourth example finished 9th at a City League event in Tokyo, and the spicy inclusion in this, there's a couple spicy inclusions. I think the water energy theoretically allows Radiant Greninja to attack if you can manually attach 3 energy, but I don't think that's what they're here for. I think they are here primarily for discard fodder for the Perfect Mixer and for Greninja to throw these energies out with its Concealed Cards ability, keeping your fire energy handy so that you can use them to power up the Ceruledge. I could be wrong on that. Let me know in the comments if you see some other uses for the water energy in this deck besides maybe manually attaching 3 times, which I don't think is realistic here. I do think it's, at this point, at this juncture, just discard fodder for the Perfect Mixer, but I do see the Regidrago V-Star, very spicy inclusion here. Now, these days we see Regidrago as one of, if not the best deck in the Pokemon TCG right now, but it's here solely in a support capacity where you're using its Legacy Star V-Star ability, where you can discard up to 7 cards from your deck and then put 2 cards from your discard pile into your hand. Now, there's actually a couple of benefits to Regidrago V-Star, where 1, you can discard 7 cards and then you get 2 cards that you want. But if you've already used your Perfect Mixer and discarded 5 cards, you can use Legacy Star, then get the mixer back and then discard another 5 cards. And that is an absolutely insane boost for this deck. Very cool option here. I like this one a lot, though. Yes, you do, then you're stuck with a 3 retreat liability, but you do have the jet energy as well to potentially get you out of the Regidrago getting stuck. This 5th example makes more sense for the water energy to be included. Besides being discard fodder for Radiant Greninja and for that Perfect Mixer, we also have Palkia V-Star here, and some of the benefits of Palkia V-Star: it's a very strong attacker in and of itself. For 2 water energy, Subspace Swell does 60 damage and 20 more damage for each bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, and if both benches have 5 Pokemon, this is swinging for, I believe, 260 damage. But because we're in a world where We have that Area Zero Underdepth Stadium, and a lot of decks right now are running that. Even though we don't run it ourselves as Ceruledge players, this is swinging potentially for even more than that, potentially one-hit KOing everything in the game as early as the second turn. And its Star Portal ability is ridiculous, allowing you to accelerate up to 3 water energy to your water Pokemon in any way you like. And I think because we only have a 1/1 line here, it's primarily here as a support Pokemon, but it also gives us the opportunity to either power up Palkia for a massive one-hit KO out of nowhere, or possibly power up Radiant Greninja as well to snipe a couple of targets down. This last one is maybe the weirdest one of the bunch because it has a card we haven't really seen in competitive play at all, and that is the Drillbur. This one comes from Temporal Forces, and I do love its ability in that dig, where when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you can search your deck for up to 3 basic fighting energy cards and discard them, then shuffle your deck. You're not looking to fight at all with the Drillbur. Its attack is horrible, but it's an easy way to discard 3 energy. You take up some bench space, but you don't necessarily need a lot of bench space for this archetype. So being able to throw down a couple Drillbur and throw 6 energy into the discard pile, and it's fighting energy, so you don't really care about trying to keep it in your hand anyway, does give you a really nice damage boost. So upwards of 180 damage extra you could do just by dropping 2 Drillburs onto your bench. Right now, we're in the infancy of Ceruledge EX, and I think players are still trying to find optimal ways of playing this deck. They're also trying to find whether or not this is going to be a real threat in the meta. But at least at this point in time, it seems like there are lots of ways of getting energy in the discard pile, and with only needing to evolve 1 stage while also only attaching 1 energy to attack, I do think this deck has potential. And right now it's kind of sitting in that tier 2, tier B list on the Pokekabook and Pokekameshi tier lists. I do think this has potential to go up. Again, it most recently won its first event. It's been top 4, top 8 a couple of times, and I think there is an opportunity for this deck to climb even higher by the over the course of time as players find more optimal ways of playing this list. I do think that there's potentially room for Ceruledge EX to find a place in the competitive meta. Again, this is a deck that we don't have right now. It's going to be a couple months before we see this, but wanted to put this on your radar now so that you can start scouting this deck for yourself. And by the time this comes out in presumably November in Surging Sparks, you will be ready to hit the ground running. But what say you? Are you excited for Ceruledge EX? Do you think that maybe we're just excited because it's a hot new toy and we're going to get tired of it and it really doesn't have the potential to hang in the current competitive meta? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, I gotta get going. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at InThirdPerson. You can find me on Twitch at InThirdPerson, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And check out the website, inthirdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until the next one, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.